You know, it's funny. We all say we want peace, right? We all claim to value cooperation. But if we're being honest with ourselves, doesn't it feel like our lives are just one battle after another? So what is really going on?
Yeah, that's the big paradox we're going to try and crack open today. Why is there this huge gap between the cooperative world we say we want and the combative one we're actually living in? Well, the answer, it turns out, has been hiding in plain sight. It's all about the words we use. Or maybe more importantly, the critical ideas we just lump together without thinking. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, first things first, we've got to get comfortable with a pretty fundamental truth here. Conflict, it isn't some kind of bug in the system of life. In a lot of ways, it is the system.
And I'm not talking about these huge, dramatic blow-ups. No. Just think about the little frictions in your day-to-day. You know, that tense moment with a coworker, the quiet frustration with your partner, that little flash of annoyance when the waiter brings you the wrong thing. The thing is, we are practically swimming in this sea of low-grade, constant conflict. And we're so used to it, we barely even notice we're wet anymore.
Now, what's really fascinating here is that this isn't just some modern human problem. It's biological. It goes all the way down. I mean, think about it. Every single living thing, from a tiny amoeba to a person, has this deep, fundamental drive to protect or expand its territory. And for us humans, territory isn't just our backyard, right? It's our ideas, our status, our beliefs. And that deep, hardwired instinct to defend our turf, well, that creates this natural, constant state of friction.
So if conflict is just baked into our biology, are we just doomed to fight all the time? Well, no. Absolutely not. See, the problem isn't the disagreement itself. The real problem is that we've been using one fuzzy, blurry word for two totally different ways of engaging with each other. So let's sharpen that focus a bit and see what happens.
Okay, this is really the core of it all. On one hand, you've got conflict, and on the other, you have discussion. Now, from the outside, they can look pretty similar, right? Both involve people disagreeing, but on the inside, their mechanics, their goals, their whole reason for existing, they are worlds apart.
So think about it. When you're in a conflict, you're walking into that arena with your mind already made up. Your mission is simple: victory. That other person, they're not a partner, they're an obstacle. And your job is to beat their argument, convince them you're right, or, just wear them down until they give up. The goal, plain and simple, is to win. But a discussion is something totally different. And get this, the Turkish word for discussion, tartışma, actually comes from the root word tartmak, which means to weigh. How cool is that? It's such a beautiful idea. A discussion isn't about a fight. It's about two people agreeing to put all their ideas on a scale together to see which one has the most weight, which one gets us closer to what's true. You don't go in to win, you go in to discover.
So here's the crucial takeaway. When we use the same word, disagreement or argument, for these two totally different things, it's a recipe for chaos, right? You walk in thinking you're there to weigh ideas, but the other person is there to win, and the whole thing just collapses into a mess of frustration.
I like to think of it like a low-resolution image. When our thinking is fuzzy, our brain just sees one big, blurry pixel labeled disagreement. We can't make out any of the important details. We don't know the rules, we don't know what the goal is, it's just a mess.
But the second we define our terms, the moment we create these two separate, clear buckets for conflict and discussion, bam, it's like upgrading your screen to 4K. All of a sudden, the picture is sharp. You can see the texture, the nuance. You can finally tell what kind of interaction is actually happening. And then, this is the key part, consciously choose how you want to engage. You've literally added pixels to how you see the world.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract intellectual game. This confusion is the source of so much real-world trouble. I mean, think about it. That corporate meeting where they talk about healthy conflict, but really nobody feels heard? Or that family argument where one person is just trying to understand and the other is just fighting to be right? It all comes from this simple failure to use the right words.
And what's really wild is that this whole dynamic, this clash between winning and understanding, it's not just happening out there, between people. It's happening inside our own heads, all the time.
We love to think of ourselves as this one solid, unified person, but we're not. Not really. There are at least two things inside us that are constantly shifting. First, there's our knowledge. I mean, you know that yelling at someone is a bad idea, but then you get angry and poof, that knowledge is just gone.
And second, our desires. Oh man, our desires. You can want to save money and desperately want that new phone at the exact same time.
So that inner space, that gap between what you know you should do and what you want to do, that becomes the battlefield for your own personal conflicts. And the rules are exactly the same. Are you trying to win against a part of yourself, or are you trying to have a discussion with all the different parts to figure out the best way forward?
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, right? We see the huge difference between conflict and discussion, both out in the world and inside ourselves. So what do we do about it? This is where things get really practical and honestly, really powerful. First, we gotta throw out the old metaphor.
Communication isn't a battle. Let's think of it more like gardening. Your job isn't to force an idea into someone else's head. It's just to plant the seed. Offer up an idea, a different perspective, and plant it in the soil of their mind. What grows from that seed? Well, that's on them. Your only job is to plant it.
So with that new gardening idea in mind, you can walk into any disagreement with this simple 3-step plan. Step 1, and this is by far the most important, look in the mirror. Ask yourself, why am I really here? Is my ego trying to win, or am I actually open to understanding? Step 2, try to read the other person. Are they in conflict mode? Are they in discussion mode? Are they defending their territory, or are they exploring with you? And finally, step 3, based on what you see, you make a conscious choice. You can jump into the fight with them, you can invite them into a real discussion, or you can just walk away. The power is completely yours.
At the end of the day, it really all boils down to this one powerful question. By asking it before you speak, you bring that high-res awareness into a low-res world. You stop being a passive participant in draining, endless conflicts and become a conscious architect of meaningful, productive discussions. So the next time you find yourself in a disagreement, just ask yourself, are you there to win an argument, or are you there to build a new understanding?